It's wonderful to be with you again. And do type in where you're from. It's lovely. I can see your name there and where you're from. And it's a great way to introduce yourself. And it's lovely to be with you. And so yesterday, I'm just going to wait and see if somebody pops up. I can see. I think. Yes, here we are, Jennifer. Hello. So I know it's working. So great to see you and welcome. Yeah. Yesterday, I announced that I would be handing on my role as Chief of the Order after 32 years of being in this role. And I announced this in Glastonbury Town Hall to several hundred members. And it was really lovely to see everybody's responses. It was just fantastic to get that response and to see the new chosen chief-elect, Ema Burke, to be welcomed by so many people in such a warm way. And you'll see I kind of wrote the essence of what I said down in my blog for yesterday, and Ema and I talked to each other on film, and you can see that on the blog too if you weren't there in Glastonbury. And thank you too for the emails and messages that I've had from many people. It's very kind of you, and it's lovely to receive them. And it's great to see everybody piling into the Sacred Grove here. Nicole and Mario Lyon from Holland, and Ben and Karen and Steve and Celia and Holly and Jackie and Alana, Fabio, Peter. Great to see you. And I thought what I wanted to do today was to have a rant. A rant, because what it's important to understand about the English character is it's incredibly inhibiting. We are not Italians. If we were Italian, we wouldn't have a problem. If I was Italian, I wouldn't have a problem. I would simply express myself wonderfully and loudly and boldly. But because I've been brought up in England, I am inhibited. And so I thought I'd do a bit of therapy in front of you. Why not? And I hope you won't mind. And, England is the country that has made an industry out of the phrase, keep calm and carry on. Those of you who have been over here know that there are T-shirts, mugs, huge factories all over the country churning out T-shirts and mugs saying, keep calm and carry on. And so I'm going to try my best to have a rant. And the rant is going to be about time. What better thing to rant about than time itself? And, this is where it connects with what I've just done. I've made a plan for the future in consultation with the Pendragon and the Scribe and others, and made a plan for the future and laid it before everyone in the blog post that I made yesterday and in Glastonbury. And what I want to rant about is this, and of course the thing about ranting is it gives me permission to be a little irrational, and I know you can pick holes in these arguments, but the thing about rants is you just go full tilt. So the rant I'm going to have is about this prevalent idea in the New Age spiritual, alternative spirituality movement to encourage us to live in the now. That wonderful book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, has been hugely responsible for this. This idea that we have to live in the now and be in the now as much as possible. And of course, the problem with that is we immediately create a rod for our backs. Every time we find ourselves thinking about the past, plotting and planning in the future, we beat ourselves up because we're not in the now. Tell me if you do that. I'd be interested to know whether you catch yourself telling yourself, oh, I should be in the now, but somehow I'm not. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just beat myself up with these ideas. I don't know. But for me, with this kind of psychological approach, there's this related idea, the same idea really, which is called provisional living, which is, we spend so much time regretting the past, thinking about the past, planning for the future, that we're not living in the moment. And so provisional living is our great enemy. So we have to live in the moment. But of course, it's all the time, says Beth. Me too, says Carol. No, it's you, says Louis. Agreed, says Mike. So, this is the thing. We have a natural tendency. I guess it comes from childhood where we're told to do things. We take on board an idea. The idea sounds great. And then we beat ourselves up if we're not following that idea. And as Darian says, it's tough being in the now all the time. Well, okay, here's my point. Who's in the now all the time? Children. Children are in the now all the time, which is why, the kids are lovely. And, what's that phrase? You've got to be as little children to get back into the kingdom of heaven and all that sort of stuff. But it's adult to think about the future. And it's a mark of adulthood to have this repository of memory of the past. And the point is surely, yes, it's not a good idea to live constantly regretting the past and traumatized by the past. And it's not a good idea to be constantly worrying about the future. Of course not. But what it is good, I believe, to do is to honor the past, the future, and the present. And this is what we do in the Druid tradition. The Bardic tradition is a whole school or stream or work of honoring the past, honoring the ancestors, honoring our memories, honoring history and heritage. And you can even say that it's the past and future that make up the bulk of our reality. The present is an ever-fleeting moment, but our reality is woven, makes up a weave of, well, this is the first time this has happened, that the phone has rung during I remember Tea with Penny when she threw the phone out of the door. I haven't had to do that, luckily. Somebody else has taken the call. So, okay. So I have this vision of a sort of braided knotwork of past and future together, and just these moments, this fleeting moment of the present going through. Patricia says that's why mindful living actually pays off, because of course there's the rub in that. If you actually do try to live in the present, as you're living, you try to be as open as possible to the moment, then of course you're creating fabulous memories and you're influencing the future in the best possible way. That's the redemption in it, of course, So so this is the idea. And I'll tell you how I got to it. I went to see my mother, who's 95, living in a nursing home around the corner. I asked her how she was, and she said to me, I'm making progress. And that absolutely touched me. It just touched me. She said, I'm making progress. And I thought, at one level, how can you possibly be making progress when you're 95 and you're kind of going downhill, and yet there's this innate hope we have in us, hope and this sense that we are moving forward, we're making progress, whatever that means. And I was very touched by that. And I realized that that's what I do. I often sort of lie in bed after a long day and I feel somehow that I'm making progress. I'm moving forward. And that's what kind of triggered off these thoughts for me the other day. That it's the most natural and human thing in the world to hope for the future. And also, of course, what happens with the elderly is that they talk a lot about the past. So I go and see her, and she's always talking about the past, memories. And as we get older, one of the upsides of getting older is we build up a sort of storehouse of memories. The scrapbook, the photo album, just gets bigger and bigger. And there's a lovely exercise. Floriana is saying something interesting here. It helps me to have a vision for the future, but knowing that today is the brick of my vision. Enjoying the moment isn't easy, but working on it, being in the now as a bridge where we have a view over our past and a glimpse of what we are building, makes the now interesting and constructive. And that's exactly it. When I was working on the succession plan for the order, I was looking back on the 30 years that I've been chief of the order. And then I was looking further back to the lineage, to the lineage that I took on, and to the time of Newen's chieftainship and so on, the lineage and the heritage, looking and saying, how can we honor this lineage? How can we move it from the past across the bridge of the present into the future? And the responsible thing for me to do is not just to live in the now, not just to be the best possible chief of the order that I can be, but also to look into the future and say, how can I best nurture the future and make responsible decisions for the future? Which is why I've begun to train Ema. We're going through another 2 years of training and apprenticeship of the chief-elect, so that in 2020 she can take on the role, having been prepared for it over almost 3 years. And so, of course, opening to the now is vital, and it's a vital part of the spiritual path to be mindful, to develop, not to kind of be in a haze and dreamy, but to really drink in the magic and the beauty of every moment. But it's also a work of the bard to honor the past as well. And there's a lovely, in order that we can also honor the future and be responsible and hopeful for the future. And there's a lovely exercise in sophrology that I've trained in that works absolutely in this spirit of honoring the past that I'd like to share with you. And it's an exercise that just takes a few minutes, and what it requires is for simply you to think about a moment that just occurred to you recently. It could have been earlier today, it could have been yesterday or last week. A moment that made you happy, a moment where you found yourself smiling, where you just had that, that warm feeling inside you get. Here in England, we're having the most gorgeous weather. May and this beginning of June has had some lovely, lovely sunshine. Being in Glastonbury was like being, in the Mediterranean. It was just fabulous. And being amongst so many like-minded people gives us a wonderful, warm feeling too. So have a think about a memory you might have recently that made you feel warm. And if you like, you can do this exercise. And again, like all these things that we do, you don't have to do it now. You can just listen if you like. And if you like the sound of it, try it later on the recording. It's also something that's kind of easy to remember, and so you can do it on your own without the recording too. And so let's now just take a few moments to become aware of being in the sacred grove. This sense that although we're sitting individually in front of our computers or tablets or phones all over the world, from South America to New Zealand and Australia and Britain and United States, everywhere, Iceland, somehow at some other level we're together, perhaps in a great forest clearing, the soft, supportive earth beneath us. And we just allow ourselves to be aware of the earth beneath us, taking in a breath, and just allowing our tensions just to drop into the earth. And as we breathe in, just breathing in the stability, the healing strength and power of the earth. And then around us we sense the trees. We feel them rooted deep in the earth. We sense their trunks soaring up into the air, and their branches and leaves, the crowns of the trees, reaching out with their green leaves, catching the sunlight, so that we sit in dappled shade. And we can smell the trees. We breathe in the energy of the trees that brings us strength and healing. We become aware of the sky above us. And as we breathe in the vitality and the energy of the sky. And with every breath in, we feel this vitality and this energy flowing into us. And the energy of the sky meets the energy of the earth within the center of our beings. And now, being seated here in this safe, protected space, just allow yourself to just squeeze or tense up every single muscle in your body. Just tense it up just as much as you can without feeling uncomfortable. Just tighten, make a silly face because nobody can see you. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze every muscle in your face, in your body. Tighten your legs, calf muscles, thigh muscles, pelvic floor, tummy, chest, shoulders, and then let go. Whew. And as you let go, just breathe out, allowing the tension to go. Do it one more time. And as you do it, this time, breathe in. And at the top of the breath, hold your breath. Squeeze as much as you can, every muscle, until you can't hold the breath in anymore. And then let the breath out. And as you let it out, just go woof, like that. And just let all the tension out. So you breathe in. And as you get to the top of the breath, hold the breath in. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Woof. Release, relax, let go. Keeping your eyes closed, just breathe in deeply. Breathe out deeply. And then letting go of an awareness of the breath, just call to mind your happy memory, just a memory of the time recently that was just so pleasant for you. Just call it up. Just see it as clearly as possible. Relive it as if it's in the moment now. The sights, the sounds, the smell, maybe even the taste, the feeling, all the feelings. Just bask in the memory. Gradually let the memory fade, but notice how you're feeling in your body. Just hold on to the feelings of well-being in your body as you let the images fade. Breathe out. Breathe in again. Breathe out. And then let go of an awareness of your breath and just call to mind that same memory or another memory, and just again bask in it. Just relive it for a moment, just allowing yourself to replay that memory as vividly as possible. Really enjoy this memory. Notice where you're feeling it in your body. And gradually allow the impressions of the memory to fade away as you keep on to the feelings of well-being in your body. And then keeping those feelings of well-being, just breathe out. Breathe in. Let the breath out. And just call to mind that memory or another happy memory. And just bask in it again. Relive it as vividly as possible. Notice where you're feeling this in the body. Gradually let the memory fade, but retain the feelings of well-being in your body. Keeping these feelings in your body and knowing that you have the capacity to live a life full of happiness and well-being, to have confidence and trust in yourself, to harmonize every aspect of your being. You slowly become aware of being in the sacred grove, the trees around you, the earth beneath you, and the sky above you. Again, retaining these feelings of well-being, you allow your awareness of the sacred grove to start to fade now too. Just gently fading as you become fully conscious of being present here and now, seated in front of your computer or phone or tablet, fully present. And when you feel ready, you open your eyes. Holly has cramp in her toe. I hope it's gone now, Holly. So lovely to experience that with you. You see how it just took us 10 minutes. We just relaxed a bit. We tightened our muscles, released them, tightened them, released them, just to sink a bit deeper. And then we did what we hopefully often do, which is basked in a memory, but did it from this slightly different state, if you like, slightly more relaxed, perhaps a sort of alert, relaxed state, and just gave ourselves the permission to open the photo album, to open the album of memories and bask in the memory. And what it's working with is it's working with this understanding we now have from neuroscience that the nervous system can't distinguish between fantasy and reality, between what's really happening and what happened in the past. This is why in PTSD, the body reacts so intensely to memories. But this is using it in this mechanism in a positive way, so that we work with the power of our nervous system to encourage a positive attitude and feelings. And Jesse's saying, does sophrology work on the assumption that physical stimulus can help ease mental tensions, as mental stimulus can create physical response? That's absolutely it. So we're working, and this is, the area that interests me so much, where you take neuroscience and psychology, and you also honor and keep spiritual tradition and spiritual understanding, put them together, and you have wonderful methods like this to open to the healing power of the past, the celebration of the past, the enjoyment of the past. And one can also do that to encourage hope in the future as well. So, and Mark, you're saying you have PTSD. This is a wonderful way to work with PTSD. So what you're doing is, as you know, the nervous system grows like a forest. We use this image of the clearing in the forest. And as you know, the nervous system is like a forest. We talk about dendrites and in the nervous system. And what happens with PTSD and difficult experiences, you create certain pathways which turn into vicious cycles of pathways. So in working like this, you're creating virtuous cycles, different pathways through the forest. And the idea is you work consciously to create these new pathways in the forest. So in the end, the other pathways, the difficult ones, just get overgrown and these new pathways get established. That's the value of it. As Jesse says, this is where science and magic intersect. Lovely. So thank you so much for being together. It's really a huge, I enjoy these tea sessions so much. I really feel that we are together. And I'm going to refill my teacup. I'm going to go downstairs, get more tea, come back, read your comments, pop it up on the blog. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you for being you, and thank you for being here. Okay, lots of love, and good night. Have a good evening.